The change is already happening, gang. We are in the middle of a global shift. Now, I break it all down in my most important book yet, America Awaken. Go to americaawaken.us and get early access now.
Free Palestine!
Free, 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 free.
That's how it started, and this is how it ended.
To go. Phones need to go, please. Don't sit in the water. Sit in the water. Only bring shit in the thing.
Take this.
We are taking everything down. Guys, anything that is sensitive needs to go down.
That one is another phone there. You put the
Yeah, this phone is Francesca Bonet. Signal was gone.
Yep, Greta and her Free Palestine cohorts were detained by IDF forces as they actually tried to make their way towards breaking the military blockade of Gaza. She was detained and then quickly stuck on a plane and sent back to Europe. Now, Greta actually claimed she was taken hostage by the IDF and kidnapped. But then the memes came out. Greta makes history by becoming the first hostage victim whose kidnappers' only demand was that she leave. And when she got to France, as if to take the ridiculousness of this spectacle to the next level, she walked around the airport with her hands behind her back to pretend she was handcuffed. I guess she learned that from AOC, who did the same thing. But Greta got one last final embarrassment when her Israeli plane landed in Europe. This is what she heard from the pilot.
To thank our security forces and the IDF for protecting and defending our homeland. And we want to wish the swift return of all hostages.
Yeah, in other words, from all of us in Israel, F you, Greta. So now Greta's back in her native Sweden, just a shell of the public persona she used to be. And we've got to ask, what is the real significance of her celebrity fall, the fall of her star? I mean, just a few years ago, she was on top of the world, quite literally. Many of you might remember this. This is from a few years back, but there was a bronze statue, a life-size statue erected in her honor at the University of Winchester in Britain. And it was erected as a symbol of the university's commitment to combat what they were calling the climate emergency around the world. You had the BBC pushing a 3-part documentary series where they were going to follow Greta in her crusade to save the planet. But the worst is when you actually had a Swedish parish, a supposedly Christian parish, tweet out that Greta was, as far as they were concerned, the successor to Christ. The Greta celebrity cult literally got that insane. So we have to ask ourselves, what's the significance of her downfall? What is the larger picture of what's really going on here? And that is exactly what we're going to find out. But first, do you ever wonder why your brain feels foggy, even when you're eating clean and exercising? Well, it might not be burnout. It could be, if you could believe it, parasites. Groundbreaking research from Dr. Alan McDonald revealed a direct link between chronic parasitic infections and neurological diseases like multiple sclerosis. Parasites can cause inflammation, nerve damage, and long-term cognitive decline. More reason to do a full body cleanse at least once a year. Well, the wellness company has a solution for you. Ivermectin plus mebendazole, the gold standard parasite solution, now combined in one cleanse combo. Designed to eliminate harmful invaders and support your immune system naturally. Medical grade, not some trendy herbal gimmicks. All you got to do is just fill out a quick intake form and get a 3-month supply shipped straight to your front door. Maha is officially here, and the wellness company is making hard-to-get medications digitally accessible so you can live your best life. Head on over to twc.health/Turley and use code Turley to save $90 off plus free shipping. Click on that link below right now and cleanse your body today. One of the reasons I find the downfall of Greta so fascinating is how it's an indicator of the larger downfall of the worldwide green cult that had taken over much of Europe over the last several years. Now, we have to understand that ever since Greta's "How dare you" speech at the UN Climate Conference back in 2019, there was a full-court press manufactured by the legacy media to make climate change the #1 political issue in the world. We featured the Daily Caller expose that originally broke the story of how international journalists gathered at Columbia University School of Journalism right before the UN Climate Conference to literally conspire over how they would fabricate a teenage megastar to galvanize worldwide support for the most radical policies being advocated by environmental activists. And that's how Greta Thunberg's brand was invented. That was what was behind Greta getting Time Magazine's Person of the Year. It's not that she ever actually had any accomplishments. It was just part of this press propaganda. And it was, to an extent, unfortunately, successful, particularly in Europe, but also here in the United States with Biden's and the Democrats' Inflation Reduction Act, which was literally just the implementation of the Green New Deal. So all over Europe, they went green, especially Germany. They all voted in their respective green parties to implement radical environmental policies. We saw the WEF, the World Economic Forum in Davos. They were pushing Greta. They were pushing these radical environmental policies all over the world. And then in just a few months, you had this. These are scenes of tens of thousands storming the Sri Lankan presidential palace after it was revealed that their economy basically imploded after it had implemented measures that turned their backs on fossil fuels, manufactured fertilizers, and the like. The president of Sri Lanka was a member of the WEF. He had touted how Sri Lanka was going to be the first true bona fide green nation on the planet. And then, boom, it resulted in the total collapse of their economy. The same with the European Union. Around the same time, we saw the Dutch farmer revolt, where farmers in the Netherlands rose up in mass and pushed back against what they saw as the Great Reset, this climate communism that was being shoved down their throats. The Dutch government at the time was passing radically draconian measures mandating that farmers cut agricultural production by as much as 30% to combat the supposedly excessive nitrogen levels that the Netherlands produces every year with their mass agricultural industry that the government there was single-handedly trying to destroy. And it wasn't just the Netherlands. There were comparable uprisings in Italy, in Spain, in Poland, where greenflation was destroying jobs and livelihoods by the day. Energy prices throughout the continent soared, making it increasingly impossible for more and more people to light and heat their homes, let alone commute to work. You, of course, had the Yellow Vests uprising in France. I mean, we could go on and on. And finally, Europeans just said, enough, we're done. And over the last year or two, they've been voting out their green governments across the continent. I mean, it has literally been a green bloodbath. The Greens have been politically decimated. And we have to ask, where does that leave Greta? Where does that leave their patron saint? Well, it appears that she's just been just as marginalized and rejected as the green movement that she was once fabricated to lead. So it's no surprise that she's finding other causes, right? Even Greta herself appears to have largely abandoned the environmental movement that made her such a global superstar. I reported on this some months back. Greta was actually detained by Norwegian police during a demonstration in Oslo, and if you can believe it, she was actually protesting wind farms. She was protesting wind farms. I mean, let that hit you. Wind farms are at the heart of green energy. So just like with her activism over the Palestinians, what happened here is that Greta transformed into an advocate for the Sami people, who are an indigenous people group in Norway. The Norwegian government had set up wind turbines in the Fosen region of western Norway, where the Sami peoples practice their culture of reindeer husbandry, which was being stifled by the wind turbines. Wind turbines that were set up in inspiration of the green policies advocated by Greta. But suddenly, to Norwegian officials' shock, Greta shows up with her human rights cohort, and they decide to protest the operation of these wind farms on this indigenous people's land, which in effect, of course, meant that she was protesting the very green energy that she originally advocated. Yeah, talk about how dare you, Greta, right? That's what the Norwegian officials were saying. So more and more people are realizing even Greta appears to have largely abandoned the green insanity that she was once the patron saint of, which means that her downfall is emblematic of the far larger downfall of leftist environmentalism as a whole.